Welcome back to CBTV's Coen and Kerr. I'm David Kerr, and we're here today with the candidates for the GOP nomination for the 28th District nod, and we're very pleased to have Bob Thomas, Paul Mildy, and Susan Simpson, who have been very gracious with us today in answering questions and sharing with us their views. Thank you. I'd like to ask a question about, this is really about veterans. The difficulty that they have finding jobs and reintegrating into the economy, our local economy. And I'd like to start with Mr. Mildy. As a member of the House of Delegates, what would you do to try and help our military people find their way back into civilian life and civilian economy?
Well, on the local level, we've had a lot of experience with workforce development. Mrs. Stimson and I worked together on the Stafford Tech and Research Park, which is now called QUIC. And it's a tech park heavily focused on government contracting and cybersecurity. And there's been a real push from there, for instance, to reach out to veterans. They bring so much. They bring so much good experience. They're great employees. Even in my company, I own a construction company. We always give special treatment to veterans because we found that they are better employees. So I think that we have a responsibility to try to make a point of finding workforce development specifically for veterans.
Thank you, Paul. Susan, I'd like to ask the same question.
Yeah, Virginia has the largest number of retired veterans in the nation that live here, so it's clearly an important issue. And as the wife of a Marine who's also retired here but is still working at the Pentagon, it's a perspective that I've developed, just a deep admiration and affection for those who have served in the military. I think the best thing that we can do for veterans and for all people is to cut taxes, to reduce the size of the bureaucracy, to allow people to spend their money the way that they see fit, that the government doesn't know best. We have a robust economy. That means you have more jobs available, and it allows human dignity. And I think that's what every single person wants. But certainly our veterans deserve to have the respect, the sacrifice that they've given, but the best thing that we can do is lower their taxes, get out of their way, and allow them to be the best that they can be.
Thank you very much. Bob?
Thank you. A lot of times in a bureaucracy, you end up with employees that maybe are in a position and maybe they're not doing the best job. And in the government bureaucracy, it's very hard to move those people out of an organization. The Trump administration has recently passed regulations that allow the VA secretary to do that, so I'm very supportive of that. We need to provide better medical access to these veterans. For some of the services, they have to drive all the way to Richmond, and sometimes they're driving there just for a 30-minute appointment. We need to expand some of the regional clinics that we've had recently. The Commonwealth is taking credit for solving veterans' homelessness. Well, I can tell you that the statistics say we're not quite there yet, so we need to continue to focus on that. And we also need to realize that they can be an engine for our workforce. Most of them have 4 years of good on-the-job experience, and integrate them, and we have found in our company that by employing a lot of veterans that they're very trustable people. You can send them out on a job site and they're just a cut above the average. And sometimes it can be simple solutions to these problems. I talk to veterans all the time that don't realize what benefits they have available to them and how easy it is to actually apply for them. So the state and the federal government, we really need to do a better job of marketing and give to everybody.
Well, thank you very much. Those are good answers. Kind of carrying on that theme, our area relies a great deal on federal spending to support its economy, just about everything. And the governor has been one to try to diversify this to some extent. He's been successful, yes and no. It's a little hard to tell. What's your view on that? If you go to Richmond, how would you like to see our economy diversified? Or do you believe it needs to be diversified? And I'll start with Susan.
Well, my main concern is one of the statistics that I stated earlier, that before the largest tax increase in Virginia's history in 2011, we were #1 in the nation for business growth. We've now dropped, according to the Tax Foundation, to number 33. So if I were to go to Richmond, I would do the same thing that I did on the Board of Supervisors. I would work with fellow members and be a force to push toward cutting taxes. I never have understood. It's not rocket science. The converse happened in Stafford, and this happened with Paul. He did lead the fight on B-poll, and he worked with our board members. We cut 9 taxes in 4 years, and instead of falling as Virginia did when they raised them, we jumped to #1 in job growth. And I also believe transparency is an issue. The budget money is the way you fund a policy. You can have a policy, but if you don't have a resource behind it, it doesn't mean anything. So I would also bring my budgeting expertise. I will hit the ground running. It's not a learning curve for me.
Thomas?
Our reliance on federal spending is certainly a huge threat to the economy of the Commonwealth. Virginia gets a large portion of the federal spending. I'm aware of that because of the bodies I serve on as an elected official, but also my own company. When we first started, we were 100% relying on government contracts. And over the years, we've tried to diversify away from that and have a commercial line of business because we see the same threat. When the federal government finally gets around to tightening the purse strings and balancing a budget, we're all going to see the trickle-down effects of that. I believe economic development in the Commonwealth, we've put a lot of money towards that, but there was a pretty negative study that came out recently that said transparency in economic development is not there. And also, we're not getting metrics for all the millions of dollars that are being spent. What is that actually buying Virginians, and why are we not moving up in the job competitive numbers that have been stated? So I think we need to focus on that. And, we had a AAA bond rating in Stafford back in 2015. I had the opportunity to go to New York City and brief S&P on that, how it works, and I think I can bring that experience to the House of Delegates.
Well, thank you, Mr. Thomas. Mr. Mildy?
Absolutely. So we've seen what it looks like when the federal government stopped spending as much money on military, and we watched our economy shrink. In Virginia, worse than it relative to the rest of the country, and in Stafford too. So, of course, you want to diversify. The question is, can you do it? Now, as a board member, I led the way. I've been on the board for 11 and a half years, and through that tenure, like I said, Stafford has been leading and basically beating our neighbors in job creation, wage growth, and new business growth. Things like tourism, the medical industry here with a new hospital, this airport where we're sitting right now, making this a viable economic machine, and cutting regulation besides just taxes. And yes, I led the fight on B-pole tax reduction, airplane tax reduction, elimination of the boat tax. But also we worked very hard to get rid of all the regulations for development in Stafford County, making it easier to do business or build in Stafford County. And it's an ongoing fight against bureaucracy. So you have to know how to do these things, not just say that you want to do them.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. And we have come to the end of our Q&A session. We'll be coming back for closing arguments. Thank you. It sounds like a trial for the closing remarks. I want to thank you very much for joining us today. And please don't touch the dial just yet. Their closing remarks are well worth listening to. So come back on CBTV and hear the candidates for the 28th District GOP nomination.